have gotten active benefit from the work, very simple kinds of remedies that have been recommended to them. And we will be speaking to a couple of them for a few minutes. And then we'll be speaking with Dr. Nicholas Samstag, who is a licensed clinical psychologist here in New York City and a psychoanalyst. And we'll be looking at together the subject of the emotional substratum, if you will, the psycho-emotional level of understanding of what is it in our psyche that helps to contribute to I disorders, because there is one. And Dr. Samstag is a very dear old colleague and friend of mine, and it's really a pleasure and an honor to have him on the show for the first time, and we'll have him back again in the future. But today he'll be weighing in specifically on this subject as part of the roundtable. So the history behind Dr. Banker's work, which John, as I mentioned, is carrying on, and I am still wearing glasses because I've just begun to get educated by John. I've only done a few little exercises, more to come. But in fact, John will be in New York City this coming Saturday, February 26th, for any of you who are listening who might find that interesting, giving a workshop on eye improvement, and it's almost filled up, so if you're interested, get in touch with him at his phone number, which he will give, or at his website. So I really am eager to bring John on, and I will do so momentarily, but I just want to let you all know that the work that he's continuing of Dr. Banker's, and he's really very humble about following very closely the work that she had initiated, really spans a world of investigation that she had done into different modalities that she found in different parts of the world, including the Bates technique, which is very indigenously American, if any of you know the work of Dr. Bates going back to the 1920s, as well as kinesiology, polarity therapy, reflexology, hands-on healing, the use of herbal medicines, the use of colloidal silver, some things that have been around really even in allopathic medicine, but have since the 20s, when the Rockefellers kind of got the upper hand in medical education, have been subverted in one way or another. She has helped to revive. In fact, honestly, she's been called by the National Health Federation as the modern Galileo. Well, Galileo was fairly arrogant, and I don't think that was the case with Dr. Banker. I met her some years ago at one of the expos a number of times. But she's gotten involved with electromagnetic technologies, microcurrent technologies, the use of electricity interfacing with the eye, and actually other parts of the body. They do work that is beyond the visual field. So I'd rather have John talk more. So, John, are you on the line?
Yeah, I'm right here. How you doing?
Fine, thanks. Fine. How about yourself?
Oh, great.
Great.
Having nice weather here in Boulder.
Good to hear. I'm glad to have you on the line and part of this eyesight improvement roundtable. You and I have talked to some extent about the work you're doing. How would you sum it up yourself, carrying on Dr. Banker's work?
Well, I've been here working here since 1992 with her in her clinic and her business. And over the years, being here every day and working with her, I actually learned all this from working with her and been pretty involved in it. This August will be 19 years now working in this field. But she did have her own ways of dealing with eye diseases and getting people out of glasses and contacts, readers, trifocals, bifocals, and she actually showed me how glasses let your vision get worse, your prescriptions get stronger, how you can develop eye diseases and eye disorders from using the glasses. And
Could you describe that? Could you describe that? Because that's an idea that is not popular in culture at all. Quite the contrary, glasses are considered to rectify worsening eyesight.
Well, they help you see better, but they don't go to the cause of the problem. They just help the symptom.
Aha.
And the thing about reading glasses, trifocals, bifocals, progressive lenses, when you use those, there's a muscle inside the eye that goes around the lens in the eye, and it's called the ciliary body. It's actually a sphincter muscle. And the lens is sitting there in a sac, and this muscle goes all the way around it. And when you bring small print up to read it, your brain sends a signal to the ciliary body, and the muscle will actually tighten up around the lens, and it squeezes the lens. It's kind of like tightening a loop up around a balloon. If you tighten that loop up around the balloon's going to bulge out. So the same thing happens with your lens in your eye, and that's how you focus on small print when you're reading it, is by that muscle tightening up around the lens.
When you bring the reading material closer to your eyes, there's increased tightening.
Yeah, the muscle will tighten up some more to focus on even smaller print.
Mm-hmm.
But that's how you do it. You can't really feel it moving around in there, but it is.
Okay, so what do glasses then do to that eye muscle?
Well, there's things that people do in their everyday life that's damaging the muscle over time, and it will toughen up, and it doesn't want to focus properly when the brain tells it to. It won't squeeze properly.
It loses its flexibility.
Right.
Its resilience.
So you can't see good, so you go, all right, so you go get some reading glasses, and you put those on, you can see fine. Mm-hmm. You know, you can read the print, everything looks great. But what you're doing is when you put those glasses on, they actually paralyze the ciliary body. It won't move anymore because you can see with the glasses on. The brain won't move it unless you're trying to focus on something. So when you put the glasses on and you're wearing reading glasses, you can see the print and everything looks good. But the muscle's just sitting there. It's not moving anymore because the brain isn't trying to move it.
So the brain starts to, that part of the brain starts to atrophy in itself.
Well, it's not just that. It's the muscle too. It's just sitting there. And the thing is when that muscle tightens up and it loosens and it moves around in there to focus when you're reading and stuff.
Yes.
It actually secretes fluids that come out of the muscle, and they come into the lens, which is sitting in a sac. So these fluids get into the lens, and it brings oxygen and nutrition into the lens by this muscle tightening and loosening. Mm-hmm. So when you wear the reading glasses, that muscle's not moving anymore. And after 10 years of this, you've cut off the blood, oxygen, and circulation coming into your lens, and you can start developing cataracts from that.
Oh, that's where cataracts can come from? Can cataracts come from another source?
Yes, but a lot of people that we're seeing are from using the reading glasses and the trifocals and bifocals. You can also get cataracts from too much sunlight. You should wear glasses when you're outside. Sunglasses with ultraviolet protection and a polarized lens is real good for protecting your eye from ultraviolet rays, infrared rays of the sun. They can damage the lens over time.
Okay, so that makes a good argument. That makes a good argument for the use of sunglasses in that context.
Yeah, well, Dr. Banker always suggests, and you shouldn't use color lenses like a green lens, a yellow lens, a blue lens. You want a black lens that's light enough you can see through it. But when you use a colored lens, a different color, it can change the frequencies of the light particles coming into your eye. And that's not good for your retina and macular area.
I see.
That's what she said. She always said to use just a black lens, but you don't want it so dark you can't see through it good.
So, in other words, we are, by wearing glasses, according to Dr. Banker's understanding, worsening our eyes by atrophying the muscle because it gets frozen. It loses its resilience, and as a result of that, it's not getting the cellular activity, respiration, and detoxification that a cell would ordinarily get.
And the same thing, when that muscle tightens up and loosens around your lens, it actually tugs on the Slim's canal. Mm-hmm. And that's a drain around your iris, where the white skin of the eye, that's called the sclera, meets the colored part of your iris. All the way around your iris right there is a drain, and it's called Slim's canal. And that lets fluid being made inside of your eye drain out under the white skin of the eye. That's if you have glaucoma, you're having troubles with that drainage system there, the Slim's canal.
Mm-hmm. And so what the work that you're doing, this is kind of awesome because it means that unwittingly we, when we're wearing reading glasses, could be contributing to our own getting cataracts.
Right. Well, that's why over time your prescriptions are getting stronger. It's because these muscles are, the outer eye muscles that move your eye around, they can tighten up and cause nearsightedness. So your prescriptions get stronger, as these muscles tighten up and get tougher and don't work properly.
Yes.
Nearsighted people, their eye is more egg-shaped. It's not round like, say, a golf ball. It's more elongated. And that's because the 6 outer eye muscles that move the eye up and down, left or right, any direction you can move it, those muscles can tighten up and hold tension. They're the only muscle in the body that holds tension. And they'll tighten up, and then they'll hold the tension. And over time, they can tighten up some more and hold more tension. And as they do that, they're squeezing the eye and making it more and more oblong-shaped.
Yes.
And it's throwing off your vision, hitting
Reshaping
the back of the eye. Properly.
Yeah, reshaping the eye. I don't even want to pick up my reading glasses to read the next question, John. What do? I feel like I'm in a dilemma here.
Well, hopefully you can start doing some of these eye exercises. We are doing a workshop this coming Saturday in New York City.
Yeah, why don't you give the information about that?
All right, it's on Saturday, February 25th, this coming Saturday. And we're going to do it at the Hotel Pennsylvania. And I actually do have just a few seats left for this workshop.
Why don't you give your phone number?
Yeah, if anybody wanted more information on that, they can call me at 303-494-4532. And that's in Boulder, Colorado. I'm usually here 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. Mountain Time. And we have a website.
I think I can see that on my piece of paper.
Right. We have a website also.
Yes, good. What is the website?
The website is drbanker.com. It's just drbanker.com.
Excellent. Well, we have a couple of your clients on the line, which I would like to get to them in a moment. I want to just paint a quick little historical sketch, which is to say that Dr. Bates, back in the 20s, who I did some reading on some years back, was on to what Dr. Banker is doing these days, or your work is doing to continue hers. And Dr. Bates realized that wearing glasses was worsening eyesight, and he was completely ostracized by the ophthalmologic community. And he was very lonely, but he did write up his work, and he had literally hundreds, if not thousands, of clients and students. And he set it up as an educational model to educate people about how to drop their glasses. And I've known about this for, some 20 some odd years, because I've known people who have gotten the benefits from his work. The Bates work is really very well known. More recently, in the last 30 years or so, Dr. Jacob Lieberman, originally from Florida, who I had on my TV show back in the mid-90s, was talking about the same thing. He used to wear bifocals, and he was trained in the standard medical model of helping people wear glasses and learning how to prescribe them. And one day he said, something's wrong with this model. Something's wrong. And he just ripped his glasses off and threw them down, and he started to work with himself, giving himself self-prescribed exercises, and working also just with his psyche about why it is he didn't want to see what was before him. We'll get to this later in the show. And
we cover a lot of this at our workshop.
You do. I wouldn't be surprised.
You're going, right, this Saturday?
Yes, I am. I'm going to be there.
You're going to be there, all right.
Yes. And Dr. Lieberman just began to make breakthroughs in his understanding of the way the eye worked relative to the brain, just as you were saying, John, and of the mind and the power of suggestion and the understanding of the emotional substrate of our speaking to ourselves about various things in life.
Like getting angry, being emotionally upset, being tired and fatigued, being stressed out,
emotional
not getting
stress.
enough sleep.
Totally.
Yeah, these things can tighten up the outer eye muscles.
Right.
They're things that people do. Even lifting heavy weight, and straining and squinting your eyes a lot can tighten the muscles up.
Exactly.
So attitude's a big part of this situation. And Dr. Banker, she studied things from Tibet, China, India, Western medicine, Bates, just everything on vision improvement around the world she could find.
Yes.
And researched it on her own patients in her clinic for 20 years.
Yes, exactly.
So everything in this kit that she developed that people can get and work at home with basically, if it's in this kit, it worked. You know, the
Sure.
eye
It's an
exercise.
educational model. Let's get around to Brian, who is a chiropractor in New Jersey, if I remember correctly. Brian, are you on the line? Brian, are you on the line? Brian is not. Okay, he'll probably tune in. You're there.
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Now I can, yes. Good. Hi,
right,
welcome.
good.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Hi, just if you would take 2 minutes and give us a quick version of why is it that you first sought out help from Dr. Benker's clinic in Colorado?
I started not to be able to read. I couldn't read books or a newspaper, and I was using those magnifier glasses, and they didn't work well. Then I went and got my eyes checked out, and I got reading glasses from an optometrist, and they just made my eyes hurt more. And I heard John on the radio, and I took down his number, and I called him, and I liked what he said on the program. I liked what he told me over the phone, so I got the kit. I've been using the kit for the 9 days, and now I can actually read the newspaper and read the books. Not as clear as I like, but it's so much better.
Really, in 9 days? How much time?
days.
How much time are you spending doing the exercises?
About 15 to 20 minutes in the morning. Then I do it again during my lunch, and I do it again at night.
Interesting.
Maybe
How did you
all day,
read the
45.
kit before you did the exercises?
I couldn't, so I called up John, and he coached me over the phone. He's a very nice man, and he took the time out.
Excellent.
He just gave me a couple pointers. I did them, and after 4 days of doing them, I could read the book.
That's amazing. So the kit didn't come with Braille.
No, it did not come with Braille. It just came with it had beautiful laminated charts. And it's all these called a Tibetan eye chart, and you just trace things with your eyes, and it makes your eyes go in every direction to loosen up your muscles. That's how I look at it.
So this is 9 days, and now you're a chiropractor, so you're a form of doctor, and so you understand the anatomy and physiology of the eye. Did what John was recommending make anatomical and physiological sense to you?
Oh, sure. It made. I always tell because when he talks about the lens, how it changes the structure of the lens.
Yes.
That's what made the most sense to me.
Interesting.
Yeah, the ciliary body squeezing the lens.
Yes.
And
yes,
Brian
yes.
is going to the workshop also on Saturday.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
I will be there.
Okay, excellent. Well, thank you so much for weighing in and sharing your experience with us there, Brian.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
I'll see you Saturday, John.
Sure.
All right.
Bye-bye. Let's tune in now. Is Steve on the line? Steve.
Steve's on the line.
Okay. Hi, Steve.
Hi, how's everybody?
All right, thanks. All right.
We're hanging.
So tell me, what inspired you to contact John Monroe out in Boulder about your eyesight?
I heard John Monroe being interviewed on WBAI a few months ago, and what he had to say really intrigued me. So I jotted down the phone number, and I contacted him later on, and we discussed, my specific eye problem.
So it wasn't just intellectual curiosity?
No.
You had a particular problem? What was it?
I met him at the New Life Expo at our booth.
Okay, let Steve tell the story here, John.
All right.
Okay. John Monroe informed me that they were going to have a booth at the New Life Expo, which was held in Manhattan at the New Yorker Hotel.
Okay, but just tell me, what was your eye problem that you wanted addressed?
Okay, I have severe cataracts. And
do you mind if I ask how old you are?
I'm 54 years old.
Okay.
And John had recommended a herbal eye drop formula specifically designed for cataracts.
Now, had you gone for any kind of surgery or any kind of medical assistance before going to John?
I had seen my mainstream eye doctor, but he told me that there was nothing you could do. You have to get him surgically removed. So I didn't believe that. So
why didn't you do that?
Because there's a risk associated with that, and I had heard of other methods of reversing cataracts naturally.
I see. So you didn't go for the surgery,
No,
and
I didn't.
you started taking these eye drops. Is that what you're telling me?
Yes, that's what I'm telling you.
And how long have you been taking them, and what have been the results?
I've been taking them since October 23rd of 2011, and I see a improvement in the clarity of my vision.
To what extent? How would you summarize it?
I can see things clearer now, and I believe the improvement would be about, say 12 to 15% if I had to put it on a percentage basis.
Mm-hmm. Has it been steadily improving over this time, or did it reach a plateau and stop, or how would you describe it?
I would say it's steadily and slowly improving.
To this day?
Yes, to this day.
Are you doing exercises, eye exercises as well?
I'm doing one eye exercise.
Does that mean one eye, or?
No. I'm doing one specific eye exercise that Mr. John Monroe had mentioned over the radio.
Okay. So, but you don't have any other measurement of the status of your cataracts at this point, but at least you do know that your eyesight has improved some 12 or 15% in the last November, December, January, 3.5 or so months.
Yes, I notice an improvement in the clarity of the vision.
Excellent.
So when people have cataracts, your visual field gets cloudy, gets smoky looking.
Yes.
And if you start reversing the cataract, you start noticing that clearing up.
Yes, indeed. Wonderful. And whatever is in these drops, I imagine that it's all natural, or there are some...
Yeah, it's a natural product. It's an herbal product, herbal formulation.
Okay, great.
An eye drop.
All right, wonderful. Well, Steve, thanks so much for weighing in here. It's really interesting to hear.
Okay, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Have a good evening.
You too now.
Okay,
bye-bye. Is Brad on the line? Brad is not on the line. Okay. Well...
Did you call his number?
Maybe we... can we call him? All right, great. He's calling right now. Brad is a researcher in biology at Cornell Medical Center.
Yeah,
Again,
you want to check his number?
Very interesting. It's being done.
Okay.
It's very interesting that, folks who often work in allopathic medical contexts seek out alternatives for any number of things, certainly not eye illnesses alone. Would you say something more about cataracts? I'm actually very concerned about my father. And he had one eye. He had one eye operated on, and right. I think he is loath to have the other one operated on, and I really would like to see if he could get some help in a natural way.
Right. Well, it depends on what type of cataract he has and what stage it's at.
Yes.
So they go from a stage 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1 is a beginning cataract, and stage 4 is a very developed cataract.
Mm-hmm.
So we can usually work with people that are stage 1 and 2. And, people working with our program, when they get out of their reading glasses and improve their eyesight, they can prevent getting cataracts.
Mm-hmm.
And glaucoma.
I see. But once it reaches,
people have can be prevented.
Once it reaches stage 3 or 4, you're really not able to intervene.
It gets too developed, it gets too set in there,
advanced.
And it's hard to reverse it.
Wonderful.
And then there's like a dozen different types of cataracts.
We won't have the time for that today, John. But since Brad is on the line, let's introduce him. Brad does biological research and is a graduate student in biology, works at Cornell Medical Center. Brad, are you on the line?
Wow. Yes, hi Mitchell, how are you?
Hi, fine, thanks, fine. Thanks for joining us. I'll just keep you for a minute. I know you're busy out there on the West Coast.
Sure.
Listen, why did you contact this office in the first place? What was going on with your eyes?
Okay, so what happened was me and John, we met at the New Life Expo last year, October, and at that morning itself, I had a really bad eye infection going on, and I was at the expo just to attend. And I didn't know John before that. I just saw his eye, seminar, and I was like, okay, I got to attend this, I have eye infection going on. And so I was.
What was the name of your infection?
Yeah, well, I'm going to come to that. So So, like, I didn't know what was going on in my eye, and then John looked. He said, "You probably have some kind of infection going on there. I have this sample, a bottle of, this solution you might want to try." And I said, "I don't know. I'm going to try, okay." So I asked across John's booth. There was this doctor's booth, like an actual doctor. He told me I have a conjunctivitis right there, but I can't write you a prescription. So I went back to John, and I said, "Okay, I need that solution you're talking about." And I asked John if he can give it to me, and he said, "Yeah, he'll tell me." So I got that, and at that time, John said, "I guarantee you, Brad, this would go away in like 2-3 days." Although I didn't believe it at that time. So I told him, okay,
his eye was
let's try.
severely infected.
Yeah. So I tried the drops, and honestly, like in 2-3 days, it was really gone. The actual whole infection started to fade away. And I asked the doctor how much was your thing, and he was going to give me some drugs called Subodex, because that was I'm not even sure how much that was going to work or not, but it was $150. So I was like, I just got to try John's stuff, and I did try, and it really worked, miracle,
Wow. So, and it hasn't come back?
No.
Or has it?
No, it has not yet come back. Actually, what I do is now, on a regular basis, I just, use it once in a while to, as an eye, disinfectant, just to clear up, whatever toxins might be in my eye, because that's what John told me to do, so.
Excellent. Okay, well, that's great. You saved $120. I'm happy for you. That's great.
Yeah.
Okay. No, it's very interesting.
It actually cleared up this problem in a few days, and it worked.
In a few days. That's extraordinary. Wonderful. Okay, Brad, thanks so much for taking a moment to call in.
Yeah, definitely, Mitchell.
Okay, be well. Wow, now we have a little bit better audio.
Right.
So this is wonderful. John, in closing, why don't you give us another word or two of your experience? I mean, let me ask you this. Is there a particular eye disorder that you have encountered over the past 19 years working with Dr. Banker when she was around and since that you have not been able to effectively address according to your clients and maybe even any kind of word from their ophthalmologists?
Now, over the years working with her, I really didn't see too many the things that we couldn't improve, and work with. The hardest thing to work with is optic nerve damage, or basically neurological damage.
Yes.
And we're working on some things for that, too, that we're seeing some improvement in optic nerve damage. People get that a lot of times from glaucoma.
Mm-hmm. Are you able to work with glaucoma successfully as well?
Yeah, like I said, you get glaucoma from using those reading glasses. And when people start doing these eye exercises and tightening and loosening that muscle, it starts pulling on the Schlemm's canal and opening it and helping the fluid come out and the eye pressure. We've seen it go down just doing the eye exercises.
You told me a story about a particular client of yours. I'm trying to remember. Do you have anything from memory?
Yeah, he came to us. He had macular degeneration.
Yeah.
And
tell the story.
He came to us and did a week of treatment at our clinic. And
I mean, that's quite a degenerative disease.
Well, yeah, he had it for 30 years.
Could you define what it is?
Well, I was going to basically say he came to our clinic for like a week and worked with us, and when he went home, he got a driver's license.
Oh, so he had medically diagnosed macular degeneration.
Right.
And did he use the standard care?
Well, we have devices that Dr. Banker developed that we used on treating him.
I don't mean your standard care. I mean standard medical care.
He worked with our protocol for the treatments that we do for macular degeneration.
Okay. And he did not use, prior to that, standard medical treatment.
There's not much they do for it. If you have some bleeding in there, they might take a laser and try and stop the bleeding. But basically, the ophthalmologist will just tell you, well, there's not much more we can do for you. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you go home and you go blind. Right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So basically, macular degeneration, from Dr. Banker's standpoint, was caused by poor circulation of blood and oxygen to the retina. Mm-hmm. And if you look at the blood vessels that come into the retina, they're the smallest blood vessels in the body. They're about the diameter of a human hair. They look like human hairs.
Mm-hmm.
And if they get clogged up with plaque and calcium, you have blood cell aggregation where your blood cells are sticking together like a roll of coins.
Sure.
Or
called rouleau. From the blood cell
yeah.
analysis view, yeah.
And then if you have, there's things like tannic acid that's in coffee and regular tea, and it causes blood vessels to tighten up.
Ooh.
So getting people off of these products and things, animal products, more vegetarian diet, getting them off coffee and tea. Artificial sweeteners can damage the optic nerve and the retina with the methanol that's in it, the methyl alcohol. So there's a lot of things people do, cigarettes, alcohol, that damage the retina.
Wow.
We have ways of reversing
So dietary change, give up coffee,
right.
Give up tea, etc.
Yeah. And we use Chinese herbal medicines that people can take that nourish the retina and strengthen the retina. There's dietary things you can do to strengthen the retina. So we've actually helped people stop the progression and even improve it at home. And some people come out to the clinic and do treatments here.
Yes, exactly. But some things can be done even from home through instruction.
And we cover all this at our workshop coming up this Saturday.
Excellent. John Monroe, I want to just thank you very much for being a guest on the show today and sharing with us your wealth of experience and knowledge about improving eyesight. You're doing
anybody has any questions, any more information, we got the website, drbanker.com, and they can always call here at the clinic.
Give your number one more time.
The number here at the clinic is 303-494-4532.
Wonderful. John Monroe, thanks again, and I look forward to seeing you next weekend.
All right, we will talk to you Saturday.
All right, sounds great.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now. Wow, I hope you're all seeing straighter as a result of that conversation. And we're going to take it yet another step. First of all, I just want to let you all know you're listening to Mitchell J. Rabin on A Better World, and we are broadcasting through Progressive Radio Network. Come visit us at our website at www.abetterworld.net or .tv. Join our community. Get on our newsletter and tune in to what we're doing every single week right here, as well as on Blog Talk Radio, a new show where we're going to be addressing specifically matters having to do with socially responsible economics and business. It's a major piece of what's going on in our society today, and I'd really love you to join in. In fact, on this Wednesday, we're going to have call-ins, so please come and call in. Just go to the website at betterworld.net. You'll get more information. And our weekly TV show, which is every Tuesday night at 10:30 in Manhattan. Again, just go to the website. You can tune in from anywhere else on the planet from that website. So now we have covered the physiological and the anatomical aspects of eyesight, what degenerates it, and ways to heal it in natural ways. Now, as I don my glasses, I am going to interview a very special man, clinical psychologist and psychoanalyst, who has for the past 20-some-odd years been working with people, especially in New York City, on different psychoanalytic, psychological matters that confront them. And his name is Dr. Nicholas Samstag. He has a list of degrees that are very impressive. He has done a huge amount of work teaching as well at NYU, and he has supervised psychiatric interns at different hospitals, St. Vincent's and others around town. And we're very pleased to have Nick on with us today to discuss the intricate emotional level of understanding that can come to us when we contemplate why people have trouble seeing. Hi, Nick. Great to have you on the show.
Hi, Mitch. How do you work this thing here?
There you go.
There we go. Well, the first thing I'm going to do is take these glasses and throw them out the window.
You and me both.
I have contact lenses and glasses with 3 different lenses in them, so I'm a good...
My God. What was your response to hearing all of that?
It sounds very exciting. I mean, it's no news to you that there's a confluence of factors that contribute to people's not being able to feel well. And sight is certainly, one of the ones that we maybe know the most about from a psychosomatic standpoint. If you remember, Freud started out wondering why his patients were complaining of these physical symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
And then he would do, his various studies.
The hysterical paralysis, including not seeing.
Exactly.
So
that was in a very significant way, I think, that was the first step to exhaust physical etiology, and then to wonder about if it was something in the human mind.
So in other words, beyond mechanical, where there's some kind of biological rationale for what's not working, he came to the resolute conclusion that I completely concur on, that there are different psycho-emotional issues that are clouding our sight.
They're clouding our sight, right. And that it's rarely the case that it's a strict dichotomy of, it's only a physical problem, it's only a mental problem. There's always, in my experience at least, an interaction effect.
Yes.
I've worked with people whose physical conditions, eyesight as well as other forms of somatic complaints, actually improve once they start making the connections between the two realms of experience, the inner world and the outer world. I'm working with someone now who has seen himself since he was a small boy as being infirm, as not being able to do things. And he certainly has racked up impressive medical charts having to do with, the dysfunction of this.
Impressive to the doctors, for sure.
Well, impressive to the doctors, and also he suffered.
Sure, of course.
But being able to actually ask the question, how bad is this? What is this? How bad is it? And what do I want to do about it? What kind of responsibility do I want to take? I've seen an enormous amount of improvement. And I don't think it's particularly anything that I did. I don't think that it's a question of, my interventions per se. I think it was simply asking the questions that hadn't been asked before, and allowing him for the first time to take a look at specifically the relationship that we're describing.
How old is he?
He's in his late 50s.
And so he's been living with this all his life.
All his life. Saw himself as, and still does to a certain degree, as an infirm and physically compromised person. But now he's able to take a new look. No pun intended. It's almost impossible not to pun on the site.
It's all over the place.
It's all over the place, right? So I think that's the news, and in a way, it's no news because Freud talked about it, and so many other people.
Well, even before Freud, with all due respect, this was an understanding that goes back to at least the ancient Greeks. And curiously, indigenous cultures never understood the separation that we understand, that's Cartesian in nature, between a separation between mind and body. It's not in their language. It's not in their conceptual understanding or framework. The Chinese, for instance, which of course I've studied at length, the Ayurvedic, the Tibetan system, even the Talmudic system, did not understand a separation between these things. It's a really new import that got capitalized upon for lots of reasons and separated out. But Freud, thankfully, was one of those who came forward in, relatively recent history to reconnect the dots, if you will, between psyche and soma. And you're continuing that work, of course, through your work as a psychoanalyst and me as a psychotherapist. And the work I've told you about at some length of total biology, I'm going to share this one story with you, Nick, and the audience. I was invited by Dr. Claude Sabah, who is a Moroccan-born Jewish physician and PhD in, I believe, biochemistry, who was the originator of total biology, which is based on the work of Dr. Hammer's German New Medicine. Not to go too far afield in that direction, but it happens to have historical antecedents. And he invited me up to Montreal some years back in October of 2004, to an eye disease seminar, of all things. And I thought, well, why not? I didn't wear magnifiers then. I thought, yeah, let me go. And I wanted to actually meet him for purposes of interviewing him for the TV show. Anyway, I've got to tell you, it was almost like a revival meeting. And he's a very, I don't know how to say, he's a doctor, and he's got the attributes of a doctor, and stereotypically, he lectured for hours and hours. I had a translator. My French wasn't that good anymore, and at the end of a series of lectures and a few bad jokes peppered in between, he invited people who felt they had, and they were all professionals. They were psychologists, they were psychoanalysts, they were psychiatrists, they were nurses, who were his students. One man got up and said, I was a child in the Holocaust in Hungary, and I have had a rare eye disease since then, and my eyes have been blurry, even with glasses. There's been no medical intervention that's been able to fully cure my problem. But for the first time in listening to all that you were saying, Dr. Sabah, I now have seen certain things in my past, in my childhood, that I did not want to see. And when I saw that they were not my fault, I wasn't responsible for what actually happened to me in those camps and the loss of my father and my mother, etc. I can tell you right now, at the end of the seminar, I am seeing. And it was just, people
powerful.
Started crying to hear a story of this man who was in the 70s tell the story. Anyway, I'm just using that, Nick, to kind of illustrate the kind of power of the work that you and I do relative to helping people understand the emotional underpinnings, if you will, of physical illness.
Right. That's a profound and interesting story. Let's not forget, we shouldn't see everything.
That's an interesting point.
Right, because
speak.
Well, the brain selectively
sure it does
focuses on what's before us, and the brain-mind selectively focuses on it. And I think one of the things that
Aldous Huxley reminded us of that in The Doors of Perception umpteen years ago, and others.
I was about to say again, sometimes we lose sight of that. I can't stop saying that. But sometimes we, I think, assume that there's some kind of optimal level of seeing, be it literal or metaphoric, and I'll leave that to the more spiritual folks. But from my standpoint, I think we need to respect that it's precisely because we can't and shouldn't see certain things that a lot of these disorders actually originate. And so then the question is to understand the specific reasons behind that, the complex developmental histories, the complex psychophysiological.
Here, do you want me to throw those glasses out for you?
Well, I'm playing with them because I'm angry at them, and I want to
break them. Say more about this. Is very interesting. There's this sort of underlying assumption that we should be able to see everything, and you're bringing something to bear that I think really merits attention.
Yeah, I think that's true in so many of the therapies, be they physical or psychoanalytic, that there's this notion that we should somehow be seeing, feeling, doing, experiencing more. Adam Phillips writes very eloquently about this notion that we seem to know a lot about madness, but not much about sanity. and we all have at times our cross to bear and our thing to promote. And I think, the point is to perhaps be respectful to the limits that we have about what we actually can't see and shouldn't see, unless and until we come to a place where that becomes something that we want to look at. Here again, I'm doing it. Look at it. You can't not look at it.
One of my teachers over the years, Nick, was Richard Bandler of neurolinguistic programming fame. And he said of us all, we fall into three generic categories: the visual, the auditory, and the kinesthetic, and, of course, olfactory. And everyone is all of them, of course, but we do have our general orientation, and yours is visual. So you will use language to articulate that view. Again, So am I.
Right.
Did I hear view? Yes.
Right.
But this is a very interesting thing that maybe we are not here to see all things, because in a very practical way, when I watch certain alternative media TV shows in the morning, as I'm feeling good and happy to be alive and drinking my nutritional green juices and Ignite Naturals and everything else, I sometimes glimpse what's going on in Syria. I glimpse what was going on in Egypt. I see what goes on in Bahrain, and I grow deeply saddened. And it's 8:15 in the morning, and my heart is breaking. And that is not a state of mind I really want to be in at that moment.
Right.
And I do feel that I am seeing things that I should not see, that there is a limit for all of us relative to what it is you're saying.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I think there's also a discipline involved.
Yeah.
I think if we're going to talk about, personal responsibility or existential truth or all of that business, I think one of the things we're talking about is, how do we want to weigh in here? Mm-hmm. And so rather than promote some idealized version of nirvana or truth or sight in various ways, to take a look at how selectively we see, not as a criticism, but as an inquiry.
Right.
Why is it that we miss this and that? And, not to mention, the idea that all of perception is interpretation. We know that from a physiological level.
Anyway.
Right. So there's no point really in thinking about veridical reality. We're interpreting it physiologically. We're interpreting it psychologically. And then to inquire on why we interpret the way we do.
In other words, going back to the notions of Freud, if you will, of Freudian slip, that's a more active, verbalizing, but the idea that in a conversation, there will be some people who will miss certain pieces of the conversation because they are, in a sense, not psychologically equipped to get it. It's as though it goes through into one ear and out the other, and they missed it. So, too, we miss certain things in our visual field that we may not be prepared to see.
That's right, and I think that the missing, variously described, is not necessarily a liability. So it doesn't, to my mind, mean necessarily that there's some deficit, but that there's a bias.
Yes, there's a bias.
And that there always will be,
well
and
put.
that there always has to be one.
Yes.
Because if there wasn't one, we'd be an undifferentiated, sponge-like creature.
Yes, exactly. The all-seeing.
The all-seeing
exactly.
sponge.
This is wonderful. Nick, I so appreciate your input here, and it's very interesting. Give your phone number out to the audience in case anyone would like to get in touch with you.
Really?
Do you remember it?
No. 212-991-8741.
If you would again.
212-991-8741.
Wonderful. Dr. Nicholas Amsteg, thanks so much for being a guest on A Better World today with me.
Well, thank you. It's been a treat.
I'm so glad. So, you have some greater insight, as we said in our newsletter, by listening to this show. You got some practical information for those of you who might want to check out the workshop this weekend. I believe there's a little bit more space, he told me. So just go to www.drbanker, no period, even though everything needs to be and should be well punctuated, .com. And this is Mitchell J. Rabin. I'm just very glad you joined us, and I hope you got something out of today's show having to do with alternative methods of healing eye problems, from cataracts to macular degeneration to, I'll just say my girlfriend had pink eye recently, she told me. I said, oh, really? How did you get pink eye? She said, I kissed a pink dog. So on that note, avoid pink dogs. Do visit us, however, at www.abetterworld.net and the TV show as well every week. Such a pleasure to have you all listening today, and I look forward to seeing you all next week. Stay tuned now for Gary Null and one of the progressive newsletter commentary hours. They're always powerful, and I know you'll enjoy it. Thanks again, and see you next week.
This is PRN, the Progressive Radio Network.
We are the music